Hi and welcome back to the channel. Today is the day for Criterion recommendations. The Barnes & Noble sales on at the moment with 50% off, and while I'm region B only, I'm hoping that Amazon will do some price matching, especially in some of the larger box sets, etc. that there are. But either way, these recommendations will hold no matter what region you're in, and I'll let you know whether they're only available in one region or the other one. So I have 5 titles in a box set. Let's get straight to it. First recommendation is The Awful Truth with Cary Grant and Aaron Dunn. Aaron Dunn and Cary Grant are a couple who have got sick of each other pretty much. They filed for divorce, and as is common with a lot of the themes of these kind of movies, it's once they divorce and they start trying to move on with their lives that they maybe realise that maybe they were right for each other before. Aaron Dunn's character starts up a new romance with a wealthy businessman. I think he's an oil magnate, if I think right, played by Ralph Bellamy rather wonderfully in the piece. And it's an absolutely fantastic and maybe the best example of a screwball comedy that I've ever seen. The dialogue is just so fast paced, they bounce off each other back and forward, and it is just an absolute treat to both listen to and then subsequently watch, and just an utterly fantastic movie to add to anybody's collection. Next up, it wouldn't be a recommendation video from me certainly in Criterion without a Wes Anderson movie, and this one is, well, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. I would say of all the Anderson movies, this is the one that makes me feel the best, or I think is possibly the funniest of all the Anderson movies that there is. And it stars Bill Murray as Steve Zissou, who's a bit of Cousteau character, Jacques Cousteau character, and that he does documentaries on wildlife and deep sea diving, and he is in search of the famous jaguar shark who killed his former partner. This Anderson, I mean, it's unmistakably a Wes Anderson movie in how it's framed and shot, etc. But this particularly has an all-star cast to it. Jackie Houston's in it, Owen Wilson's in it as normal, Cate Blanchett's in it, William Dafoe's. I mean, there is just a never-ending stream of famous faces in The Life Aquatic. And it's a rather wry look at somebody who has, like a lot of Anderson movies, has a lot of ego. It's nearly David Brent-esque in ways, like Office style, and in that you cringe for him a lot of the time, but it's always done with very, very dry humour. It also has an utterly fabulous soundtrack. Portuguese versions of David Bowie's famous David Bowie songs, and being a David Bowie fan as well, I just found that utterly enchanting, and it all just adds into this lovely cocktail of wonderfulness that I unashamedly find in every Wes Anderson movie. I just think he's utterly fantastic, and I'm a big fan. So your mileage may vary if you've watched other Wes Anderson movies before, but I think this one is the most openly humorous, as I've said, and one that if I was going to tell people to start with a Wes Anderson, it might be one of the ones that I'd tell them to start with for that reason. Next up is a French film, La Vérité, Henri Georges Clouzot. I'm going to go right for the pronunciation of the French names and try and nail it, but fall apart massively, more than likely. And it stars the incredible Brigitte Bardot in what, for me, is her best performance. Mightn't be the best film she's in, but I think this is her best performance. It's the one where she gets to show range. Now, I will say Brigitte Bardot plays pretty much the same role in every movie, and this one's no exception. She starts as a girl who lives in the rural part of France, and she decides she wants to experience the highs of Paris, so she moves to Paris. And the film jumps forward basically to show that she is on trial at the end of it, and the story then fills in the back part of how she got there. So she is on trial for the murder of her boyfriend, while being partly who done it, did she do it, did she not do it. It kind of fills in the story, like I say, of her life and her journey and how she was struggling to adapt within Paris as a basically a single lady, but one that never missed the mark with Bardot in a cast that was incredibly attractive. And like an awful lot of films that I go back and watch, I like going back and watching femme fatales or the great female actresses or showstoppers of past to see exactly what it was that made them captivate and grab audiences of those time. And I think Bardot is just, in that period, was just dynamite on screen. She was fantastic, often played characters that you did not like, which I think is one of the most endearing qualities about her performances. You nearly always disliked her character, and I don't think this one's any different, but utterly fantastic movie, and one that I heartily recommend. And Clouzot's films in general are pretty much gold standard to watch by. Next one I'm going to recommend, I think, is one of the ultimate Criterion discs or examples of Criterion releases and why you should pick a Criterion release over, say, another release of it. And that is Roy Scheider's in Bob Fosse's All That Jazz. Now, All That Jazz is a Region A only release. It's not available in Region B. The other ones are all Region A and B. So this is the first one that you would have to either get out of Barnes & Noble itself or import if you're in another territory. And it tells the story of a chorus line production or a Broadway production of a musical where Roy Scheider plays the director, choreographer of the piece. He plays a character called Joe Gideon, and Joe Gideon is an egotistical maniac. He lives in that kind of world where people have told him he is brilliant. As people often do with people that are in the artistic world, their ego gets inflated. And Joe Gideon lives a lifestyle where he can't just be impressed by everything that's around him or take advantage of the things that kind of adulation affords him. So things like he cannot be faithful to partners and to women. He cannot resist the allure of that lifestyle. It goes into great graphic detail about his morning routine and how not great it is. And without going in too much into exactly what the film ends up being, it is very much a look at a man who, for all intents and purposes, you're supposed to dislike a lot, but then you cast Roy Scheider in his role, and Roy Scheider is one of those actors, for me anyway, that is instantly likable. So it creates this very tough thing as a viewer of, I really want to dislike this person, but there's something about him, and it shows how he got there, his motivations, and also about what drives him. Because there are three women in his life. There is ex-wife, he has his current girlfriend, and he has his daughter, and all three play a major part in the movie, and that they constantly are there for him in some way, shape, or form. The movie itself is not an easy watch, though. It's a very deep dive look at how somebody like that plays out and affects everything else around them. Some of the choreography is fantastic. It was interesting for me to watch it actually because there's a scene where there's a erotic dance sequence put on. You'll know what I mean if you watch the film itself. But it reminded me a lot of Cabaret because I've seen the stage production of Cabaret, and lo and behold, when I went to look at it, Bob Fosse has done the film version of Cabaret as well around that time. What also makes this great is, I mean, the extras on this are just never ending, it seems. There's interviews with the two of the main principal female actresses and their relationship to Bob Fosse himself and how much of an effect that had. There was a conversation with Roy Scheider. There was commentaries. It is just never ending and really gives you a good idea of what makes this such a fantastic title. I recommend All That Jazz wholeheartedly, even if the film may not hit the first time, because it can be a difficult watch. Through the extras and through delving deeper into the film itself, you will get an awful lot of joy out of it, I have no doubt. Next release is, well, a bit of a fancier release. For me, this was the best Blu-ray release in the UK, although it is obviously region A as well. So that was 2019's best Blu-ray release, and it is Elia Kazan's On the Waterfront, starring Marlon Brando in what is one of his career-defining performances. Brando plays a character called Terry Malloy, a former boxer and strong man and dock worker in urban America, in an area that is controlled by a mob boss played by Lee Cobb. And it tells very loosely the story of Brando's desire to both move on from that kind of life, whereas nobody sees him moving on from that. They see him as just somebody to be pushed around, even though he was the strong, tough guy. They see him as a bit dumb, but he has ideas of wanting a better life for himself and wanting to do, and it culminates in one of the great finales in film, I think, with many quotes that people will recognise going forward. As a movie, it was captivating. I think this is an absolute no-doubter, one of those films that everybody would like and watch. Not just because of Brando's performance, but because it's a very strong film. I think Lee Cobb is an incredibly strong antagonist to him, and Malloy being an anti-hero because he doesn't always do good things, but he has a soft side to him. He has a side that wants to care and nurture and look after his pigeons, for instance. And, you know, stunning performance, obviously, but the disc as well is incredible. Not only do you get the background into more of the movie, because this was a very successful movie as it was, but you also get a rather extensive documentary into Elia Kazan, things that I never realised about him at all, and that he was labelled with being a Communist Party sympathiser and how that affected his role within Hollywood. There are also alternative cuts of the film on the other discs as well, and like honestly, it is an absolutely beautiful set. You have the set in the middle as a book, but you have the two discs. One is singular pigeon on it, one is multiple, and this lovely booklet that comes with it as well, full of writing on the subject. But just an absolutely stunning release, and one that I dearly, dearly love. And a good example of why Criterion releases, okay, they may be expensive, but you get presentations and packages sometimes that just enhance the quality of the movie. And the feel of this cardboard is even lovely. Real favourite of mine, and one that I really recommend to anybody trying to delve deep into classic cinema. And the last release I'm going to talk about is that box set that I talked about. And of all the many to choose from, I thought I'd pick, well, a smaller box set. And that is the release of Lone Wolf and Cub. 6 films that tell, or that are adapted from, a manga of the same name. That tell the story of Ito Wagami, who's a former shogun executioner, who's somewhat chained, who escapes to the countryside with his son in tow in a cart. Son Daigo is young, not much more than a baby, and they go around the country trying to survive, but also trying to get revenge for the murder of his wife, and against a common enemy. Now, one of the things I didn't realise is that there was a common enemy through most of the films, because I watched them kind of very separately. So watch one, don't watch one for a while, go back and watch. I thought they were all singular stories, but they are not. They are all connected. And the reason that this box set is so good is, well, the choreography of the samurai fighting, or of Ito Wagami's style of samurai fighting, is both wonderfully done. The locations that are shot in are beautiful. There's a quality of the filmmaking that, much like the Zatoichi box sets, is not just standard film by numbers fare. There's an art to the filmmaking that is there. I mean, Box art is beautiful as well, as I'm sure you can see there. But yeah, 6 movies as they travel around, and then I will say also the cart that they travel on is kind of like A-Team-esque, and that it's weaponized, so there's like weapons all over the damn thing to help them out as they go. But he's a deadly swordsman, as Ito, and he's wonderfully played by, as it turns out, the actor who played Zatoichi. It's his brother, and you may recognize him from a few of the Zatoichi films because he's in 2 of them, I think. Yeah, I think 2. I can remember him being in, because I recognized his face twice and went on to IMDb, etc. to check it out. But yeah, an absolutely cracking set. Are they a bit silly? Sure. I mean, that's kind of what you'd expect to go with it. Are they fun? Yes, they are. Are they interesting and fun watches? Yes. I will say all of the films range between like a 3.5 to 4-ish. I think I'd 4.5, but they're all none of them are going to knock your socks off individually, but as a whole they make a really, really nice package. What about the extras then? So the extras, there's an alternate cut of the film, the first film, which was released in America, called Shogun Assassin. So they've done that one of the discs. There is a making of the series. There is an interview with the writer of the manga originally. There is a documentary on one of the directors. So one of the directors, same director, did 4 of the films. So they did a profile of him. And then there's some extras around making of shogun swords and the art of shogun, or samurai swords, sorry, and the act of samurai fighting, etc. Just a really great pack. There's even a secret compartment in the packaging, which I'll not ruin for anybody. You can go and find it. There's a little extra in the packaging somewhere. So you can go and check that out as well if you want. Everything about it is just absolutely wonderful. So you have your 3 discs, and you have your booklet detailing the films, etc., and the credits that are within there as well. And there's writing, as you'd expect, on the films that go in there. Just a set of films that I enjoy immensely, and that I always look forward to delving into and getting to the end of. And getting to the end of them I did, and was somewhat gutted that there were no more, as there were plans for some more as before they all fell apart. But just wonderful films, wonderful fun, and one that I think you should check out. So those are my recommendations for this Criterion sale. I hope you find lots of great titles yourself. If there's any that you picked up that you want to recommend in reverse, please let me know. I really look forward to seeing those, and I hope to pick up some myself as it goes on. So thanks very much for watching. Take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you all soon. Goodbye.